Good morning. It is Monday, the 24th day of February 2025, and the weather is turning here in Indiana, which is making us all much happier, I must say. But I am Mayor Chris Jensen, mayor of my hometown, Noblesville, Indiana. You're tuning in for another edition of Mental Health Monday, where I am so excited to have a plethora. I've been wanting to say that on camera for a while, of special guests with me here today. I have my good friend Kristen Boyce, the owner of Pathways to Healing Counseling here in Noblesville. Good morning, Kristen.
Good morning. I am so excited about our conversation today. It's good to see everybody and welcome. Everybody's welcome on in. So feel free to share the link, send them on in.
The water is warm. Jump on in with us. And we are joined today by two friends of mine who help head up the Noblesville Diversity Coalition, Mr. Brian Glover. Good morning, Brian.
Morning.
And Dana Randall, the head of the Noblesville Diversity Coalition. Dana, good morning.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, we're excited to lean in on this conversation to learn more about the Diversity Coalition, the work that you guys are doing, how that is linked to the mental health space, as Kristen and I have explored the past nearly 5 years, as she reminded me a few minutes ago. We have realized that there are many countless links in our community to mental health. And so we're excited to engage in this conversation with you guys today. We welcome everyone who's tuning in. We know that there are folks all around the world that tune in and join us, which I'm just honored that you do. Our chat is open during this conversation. If you have any questions for Kristen or myself or Brian or Dana, please tune in there. If we don't get to you right away, we will get to you eventually with some follow-up answers there. But before we do anything, we're going to do something that I did on the way in to work this morning, and that is some square breathing. And I'm going to let Kristen lead us through that exercise.
So we all have stress. We feel overwhelmed. We can feel triggered by many different things. No one's exempt from any of this. We're all humans here on this earth trying to do the best we can. And the first thing I teach clients when they come into therapy is some deep breathing techniques. So we're going to do square breathing. We're going to inhale for 4, hold the breath for 4, and slowly release out our mouths for 8. That exhale is key to accessing what we call our parasympathetic nervous system. Think of para means peace. We want more peace in our lives. And this is the access point to start to help our bodies gain more peace and calm. So we're going to do 2 breaths together, feet on the floor. That helps ground us in this present moment. So kind of sitting in your seat, or if you're standing, you're going to really feel your feet press into the ground. We're going to inhale through our nose. So inhale for 4, hold, and slowly release out our mouths for 8, like you're cooling soup. Yeah, stretch out if you need to. Shrug the shoulders, get all that tension and tightness released up and out of the body. We want to up and out. So let's do one more together. Deep inhale through your nose. And release. Just kind of check in, notice the difference before you started your breathing and after. I recommend doing this every hour, 5 to 6 breaths, so you can come back to the present moment and regain calm within your nervous system.
Simplest thing for a quick hit throughout the day is that square breathing. I love it. So thank you, Kristen, for that. I'm excited to pivot this conversation to the Diversity Coalition. They've done some incredible work the last couple of years in the city of Noblesville. But if it's all right, I'm going to start by asking Brian to introduce himself a little bit. Brian, I'd love for you. You have a storied, interesting history in Noblesville and a deep history in Noblesville. If you could tell us a little bit about you and then pivot to Dana. Dana, I'd love to hear a little bit about your history, and then maybe you, Dana, can take us into what is the Diversity Coalition, kind of what is the mission and the work you've been doing. So, Brian, if you want to kick us off, and we'll go to Dana if that's okay.
Sure, that'd be fine. Yes, my family and myself have a deep history here, deep and long history here in Noblesville. You can take our family back into the 1840s in Noblesville, and a little earlier than that within Hamilton County. I grew up in Noblesville, graduated from Noblesville High School. I'm not going to say when, but I did graduate from Noblesville, and then moved to the West Coast for about 28 years and came back to Indiana in 2000 in Noblesville in 2007. Got into business with a relative, my uncle, and Mr. G's Liquor. Many people know me from Mr. G's, and we had that business for 42 years in Noblesville. Sold it in 2019. I am working at retirement now, trying to figure out what I should be doing in my next stage of my life. But the Noblesville Diversity Coalition has been a big part of that since even before we sold the business. Been involved since 2000. Dana, correct me. I think it's 2017 when we started this 18 when we started this organization. Been involved from the beginning, as well as with several other organizations, the Chamber of Commerce, Hamilton County Community Foundation, Hamilton County Historical Society, and Roberts Settlement, which is an African American historical site in northern Hamilton County. I'm deeply involved in that organization as well.
Brian is what we call a quintessential doer in Noblesville. When you turn, Brian's often there, which is important, and we're lucky to be surrounded by the Brian Glovers of the world.
Thank you.
Dana.
Yeah, so I would add to that, Brian is just a tremendous resource for us on NDC. He functions as our treasurer because of his background as CPA and the work that his career, but he's always a voice for reason, always a voice for inviting other people into the conversation, it's what we're about. So
thanks, Dana.
I am one of those folks, Chris, that is not from Indiana, not from Noblesville. I moved here when I got married to my husband. He's Tom Randall, that was part of Randall and Roberts Funeral Home. I'm from Oklahoma. Went to school in Kansas, lived in 7 different states with my career. I worked for Eli Lilly and Company. That's how I ended up in Indiana. And got married 22 years ago now, and moved here to Noblesville and love this community. Absolutely love this community. It's the longest I've lived anywhere in my whole life. So I love being a part of it. So NDC is, let me tell you about who we are first. That might help, and then kind of what we do. So we're a nonprofit. We're a 501c3, started in 2018. So this is our 7th year in the community. And we're a mix of people from all across Noblesville. So we've got people from the business community, the faith community, the schools, the city, parents, grandparents, parents like myself that aren't from Noblesville, people that have lived here their entire life. Different experiences, backgrounds, languages, cultures, all of that. But what we have in common is we love Noblesville, and we have a concern and a care for our neighbors. And we want everyone, whether you make Noblesville your home or you come here to visit, that this community is welcoming and inclusive for everyone. That everyone, I would say everyone has an opportunity to benefit from all the great stuff that happens in Noblesville, and equally feels a responsibility to contribute to what Noblesville can become. So that's kind of the space we're in. So Brian, do you have something to add?
You summed that up quite well. Very good.
Let's see your t-shirt, Brian, because this is the t-shirt.
Oh, sure.
Noblesville Diversity Coalition. Tell us what it
Take
says.
that in. It says, everyone belongs. And this is obviously our logo in the middle. It says NDC. And these t-shirts are available for anybody who would like to purchase them. They're $25. And that money will be put to good use doing all the programs and things that we're going to be talking about here in the next hour.
And that's your tagline, everybody belongs.
Everybody belongs, yes.
One of the key pieces I wanted everyone to hear. So everyone is welcome. Everybody, you want to make sure everyone feels like they belong, because that's the one thing we long for mental health wise, is a place to belong.
Right.
That's what I'm hearing right now. Like, I feel like I don't belong anywhere. So this is a great place. If you don't know, like you don't feel like you fit, please reach out, come to some of your programs. Tell us about some of your program offerings.
We've done lots of different things. All of our events are around connection and learning. So creating opportunities for people that might not normally be able to interact and come together in a place that's fun and engaging. And while you're there, then you meet somebody, maybe build a relationship that lasts outside of that event is the hope. And then as you get to know different people, you learn things and you have a different perspective about things that we all bring. We say diversity should be celebrated, differences should be respected, And all of that is to find common ground. And so we want everyone to feel that there's a safe place that you can come together and connect. So we do community conversations is one of our big events we've done for about 3 years now. We've had about 500 now people from the community be a part of it. You both have been and to some of our events around community conversations. It's just a safe place to come together. It's a structured conversation. You break into small groups and you talk about things that we already have on our mind, but there's some ground rules. And the idea is not to persuade anyone, but just to understand. So the feedback we consistently get from that one is it's fun. It was easy. I made a new friend and I learned something. So, and we do have people say that's one of our community conversations is one of the spaces where they always feel like they belong, no matter where they come from, they feel like they're a part of that. We do cultural dinners where we use food and different traditions to help people experience what it's like of different, why is it this food? Why is this important? And then we do a new thing last year that we're continuing this year called Listening Series, where we allow some of our different cultures to be highlighted, and they talk about here's what it is to be me in Noblesville, and to just help people kind of break down those. If you don't know, we have a tendency to distrust or feel different from. And as you hear people's stories, you see, gosh, there's a lot we actually have in common. So
yeah, I'll just add to that. I don't think we can stress enough that these conversations, these other things, these other events and programs that we do, as Dana said, it is not about trying to persuade someone to a point of view. All points of view are welcome. It's really, again, I'm just repeating what she said. It's about coming to listen to someone else, giving a voice to people that perhaps sometimes feel they don't have a place, to express themselves where they feel safe. And that's the environment we've tried to create at our community conversations and our listening series and other things that we've done.
Yeah, I was going to add on because I have had a chance to be at a community conversation series. The NDC has helped us facilitate really tough conversations in our community. I think that's been one of the things that I've tried to lean in the most with NDC. And I'll be honest, and Dana and Brian know this, I don't always 100% agree. I don't 100% agree with my spouse, right? And you shouldn't probably ever 100% agree with anybody. There's been times that I haven't agreed with organizations, even NDC, on certain things, but the space has always been held to allow for that disagreement in a civilized way. And I think that has helped move the needle from my perspective in Noblesville. I use one example, and Dana and Brian, you both were engaged in this conversation back early on, right after COVID hit. There was the George Floyd conversation that happened. And I remember very, very vulnerably thinking to myself, okay, we have to have a conversation as a community. I am a white male Republican in Noblesville trying to lead a conversation around this topic. That is not easy, but I do appreciate the NDC helping to guide us through that and helping it make it easier for leaders like myself to be vulnerable and say, you know what, I may not be the best messenger here, but I am the mayor. Thus, I need to say something. I need to be a part of this conversation, and the NDC helped guide that. And I think that's what we've got to continue to learn from each other going forward.
Yeah.
What are you seeing mental health? I call them courageous conversations, community conversations.
Right.
In the high school teaching how to have courageous conversations,
Yeah.
different groups. When I was there, the level of safety you created for people to be vulnerable was the differentiator that other groups, I've seen you cultivated this with the guidelines to create the safety.
Right.
What are you seeing mental health wise when come forward in these conversations?
Yeah, we always collect feedback at the end on, was it a good experience for you? Would you do it again? Would you invite somebody else? And then comments. And one of the pieces that always, it reinforces, but it's people are always like, I was surprised how deep we got into a conversation when the other person was listening, not to challenge me, but to validate who I was and that my perspective on this matters. And I think that's the piece as far as that belonging and that connection to feeling better about myself. It's just, I think listening to someone deeply is about the same feeling as, and you might verify this, Kristen, as feeling loved.
Yes.
And when someone listens deeply to me and validates who I am and my experiences, and that's what we hear from people is, this was fun. But if I'm honest, I felt heard and I felt respected for who I am. And so that's a gift that everyone should have.
100% agree. I think we're thirsty for it right now. We are all thirsty to be seen, to be known, to feel heard, and our voices to be heard and respected. So this is a gift you're giving the community. And this is also a sacred place where, like you said, different perspectives are welcome. So all are welcome. You don't have to think the same. You don't have to feel the same. And we're not learning how to do that in a healthy way so much in different environments. And this is an environment where you can start practicing accepting all of our parts, all of our different parts and cultures and experiences. So,
Kristen,
yes.
Oh, sorry, I was going to ask a question about this because it kind of parlays on about this listening conversation. Can you talk a little bit, because Brian mentioned it, I think there's sometimes in society a misnomer around listening to somebody and agreeing with somebody.
Yes.
And those are different things. And I hear it from my seat all the time. I'm sure Brian and Dana do too, of, you want to be heard, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you sign on the dotted line that you agree. Can you maybe from a mental health standpoint, Kristen, would you comment on that?
I love this point because this happens in family systems and couples. When I work with them, they're like, I'm not going to offer empathy or compassion because I don't agree with what they're saying. What we are really teaching people is, in order to access empathy, it doesn't mean agreement. It means an emotional connection. You're almost putting yourself emotionally, because you can't live in someone else's shoes. You can't. I mean, we're in our own shoes, but you're trying to relate emotionally what that might feel like. And if we don't access our own emotions, we're going to have a real hard time offering empathy and compassion to other people. And I think this is a key piece. Active listening means we hold a sacred space of being an empathic witness for someone else's lived experience. And I don't have to agree with anything. I can be an empathic witness to someone's lived experience. And we're missing empathy and compassion. We're not teaching even how to access it, what it looks like to say it. And what I teach people, say that makes so much sense how you feel. That doesn't mean I agree with everything you just said. That means I can acknowledge that that feeling would come up based on your experience. And now I'm accessing that part of myself to open myself up to a different perspective. And that takes some deep emotional healing work. I really believe that. So the more we feel, you've heard this maybe on a bumper sticker, the more we feel, the more we heal, and the more we're able to hold sacred space of attunement, presence, active listening. And I'm not projecting, I'm not putting my thoughts and feelings onto someone else's lived experience.
Mm-hmm.
Chime in here, Brian and Dana, to see if you have anything else to add.
I'll just add that from some of the conversations that we've had within the Diversity Coalition, I run into some of these folks in public spaces, and I think that relationship and that openness and honesty that we've been able to establish just through that 1 hour conversation has made people feel comfortable continuing a conversation with me in a totally separate space that maybe they wouldn't have done before. And again, it helps me to learn how to become a better listener when I'm in those conversations, because as Chris said, I don't necessarily agree with everything somebody is saying, even if we generally hold the same things as important, the same values. Oftentimes I hear things that I don't agree with, but I want to listen and understand that position a lot better. And it's really helped in those. And I think people are always looking for a space and a place to be able to be heard. And I think, we want to see that go beyond just coming to one of our conversations, but what happens when we're not in an NDC program.
Yeah, I think that's the part with, even like I said, we've had 500 people come to community conversations. The Preservation Alliance has hosted their own, the Boys and Girls Club, even the Lions Club has hosted their own conversation. So, our board and our 50 plus volunteers aren't going to make this happen. But it's the choices that we all make every day that can make everyone feel included, everyone feel welcome. And so the community conversations, you come and kind of get a taste of, oh, I can do that. And like Brian said, then you take it to your conversations with your family and your friends and your colleagues. And it's like all of a sudden, wow, we can normalize conversations where we disagree. This is a healthy thing. This is a good thing. This is how we get a better solution, right? To stuff the city's working on and stuff our businesses are working on, and that we bring all these different perspectives together. That's how we move, and we all row the same direction, and we get a better solution if we bring all those differences to the table.
Yes, I feel like what I'm seeing right now, mental health wise, is there's a separateness. I feel separate. I feel less than. There's lots of shame. There's something wrong with me. I'm defective in some way. And I think when you feel heard, you feel seen in these sacred spaces, it shifts something inside. That shame becomes smaller, right? That I'm different, I'm less than, and we start feeling more connection, which is what we're longing for and we're neurobiologically wired for.
Right.
That's what you're creating. You're creating a sacred space of connection. Even if we feel like, I don't feel like I quite belong, once you start feeling heard and seen, you start feeling like you do belong. That's the gift you offer.
Yeah. I don't, this might not be the right time but as you were saying this, I was thinking we do a navigating the holidays. And so how to come together with family when you have differences of opinions. And I tell this story that I love cherries, anything cherry. I do not like strawberries. And people have, oh, you haven't had a strawberry shortcake. You haven't had a strawberry shake. And it's like, no, I'm very comfortable. I don't like strawberries. Right. But what we have in common is we both love something and we both hate something. And that commonality of, I can understand why you love strawberries because it's the same way I love cherries. It's not that we both love the same thing. And I think that not only that I'm heard, but that, wow, there is a similarity to this helps me understand. Like, I can't understand eating a raw strawberry. I never will, but I would pick a cherry from the grocery store and eat it right then, right? So, but that's what we have in common. So that's helpful for me too, in this common humanity where everyone belongs. We are more similar than we think.
I love that. How do you help families right now? You're probably seeing this. I'm wondering if you're seeing this. Politics is dividing families. We're seeing it in our practice. It's significant. Friendships, neighbors, families. How are you helping facilitate people in this climate right now where there's such division? And I can imagine it's immersing into the coalition. I was curious about that.
Yeah, Brian, I've got some stuff, but I've talked a lot.
Go ahead.
You want to?
Go ahead.
Well, what I would love, in fact, we just had our offsite where we get together for a day to start the year on what do we want to do. And it was like, we would love to put a bubble over Noblesville so this national narrative doesn't penetrate us. But at least we said that we want to go upstream from politics and talk about just culture and how we interact and how we relate to each other. And that we do have we were wired that way to feel passionately about things. So that's not a bad thing. But again, it's how do you do that in a way to where that you're not diminishing that other person. So I guess that's the main thing for us is you can hold very passionately to a different perspective. But when it comes to the point where you diminish this us versus them, not just win, but I want to beat you down, that's not productive. And the majority of Americans are saying we're tired of the political division. Like 87% of America say we're tired of it. We know it's not working. But I would do something about it if I knew what to do. And that's what we would say. Hey, we've got a place for you to come and talk through this stuff.
Yes.
Well, and Danny, I'm going to chime in on this for a minute because I live in this space a little bit on a daily basis, but that 13% is very loud.
Yeah.
And it's cutting through that. Kristen, would you comment, especially on this division right now politically, so much of it I feel is, and I just came from a group of mayors from across the country. We had this conversation. It's really a fear of the unknown. There's a lot of uncertainty nationally, statewide, across the board. Would you say a lot of that's rooted in just unknown uncertainty?
Uncertainty and fear of not being seen and acknowledged and understood. And I think people are like this. They're like, well, I don't matter. I'm not being cared about. People want to feel like you care about me. And if you don't feel like you're being cared for or cared about, it creates a lot of feelings inside. It can bring up a lot of fear, as you said. It can bring up anger. It can bring up disgust. It can bring up rage for people. And those are protective parts, saying I do matter. And how do I gain a sense of self in the middle of maintain connections, right? In the middle of people feeling differently. And we're seeing that courageous conversations and how to have them. That's why the coalition, the diversity coalition, is so important. We don't know how to talk about things in a healthy way. We don't have the skills. We don't have the tools. And so if we can create a format, like you said, Dana and Brian, when you come in, you learn how to do it, and then you take it outside of that sacred place. So you can do it outside of these, community conversations. That's what I think we've got to keep cultivating in our community. That's why I'm at the high school and these different groups, because if the kids don't learn it, if they learn it now, guess what? They're going to have healthier relationships, partnerships, friendships, work relationships. I'm passionate about it because we just aren't taught the skills on how to navigate differences.
And I would even, go ahead, Dana, go.
I think everyone wants to escalate. Like, well, that was great. Now let me zing you, and I'll zing you. And it's like, we want to turn down the volume on all of that, to where that there's how do we come together? How do we find common ground? And I think, Kristen, what you said, respect. If I don't feel respected, I automatically get defensive. And then I go to war. As opposed to, wow, I can let my defenses down, actually be vulnerable and question maybe what I think. Now that we've talked, Brian does this for me a lot. I think I'm pretty sure on something, and I talk to Brian and I go, I was wrong. And being able to be vulnerable, to be able to say, thank you for telling me that I was wrong, and now I know differently, is an important part of being able to bridge some of that politicization of everything right now.
And I think it's fair to say that no one's perfect to that, right? I'm just as guilty as anybody else of the escalation. And I was just going to tell a quick funny story on the de-escalation. Not everyone even wants to hear the de-escalation piece of it. I will say Julie Jensen and I, and she'll be mad at me for saying the story, but we'll get into an argument on something, and I'll look at her and say, I really appreciate you. I respect that you feel that way. And she'll go, don't Kristen Boyce me.
Like, don't Kristen Boyce me.
Don't Kristen Boyce me. But again, and then we kind of chuckle about it. But again, some people aren't ready for that. You know what I mean? Some people aren't ready. They want to. Yeah. She's jonesing for a fight sometime, and I've been in it all day, and sometimes I'm like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, you win. You win.
That's not the first time I've been told that with couples. They're like, don't do the Kristen Boyce.
Don't Kristen Boyce me. Oh, yeah.
And, just forget it. Yes.
I love that. Well, this half an hour has gone by so quickly. I just want to, again, thank Brian and Dana. And one more pitch. You guys have a cultural dinner coming up on March the 6th. Dana, I think you already said something about that, but you want to give a quick plug for that?
It's Taste of Shabbat. So this will be a Jewish celebration, and it's 6:30 to 8. You can go to our Facebook, or we are and register there. We limited at 30 so that they can prepare the meal and do that well. So, but we still have lots of room. And this one, I personally am very much looking forward to this one. So everyone's invited to come.
Well, thanks for that. I actually had you say it because I was insecure on how I was going to say the name. I was going to say Shabbat, so I'm glad that you did that. But that's me being vulnerable. That's why I had you do it. So thank you. But Brian, thanks again.
Thank
Brad,
you.
Our good friend Brad Helvey chimed in on the chat and said, we listen and we do not judge. So yes, Brad Helvey, preach, brother. Great job. So real quickly, Kristen, if somebody's having a mental health moment right now and they need help, I'm glad they're tuned in here, but they need to take that a step further. And what does that step further look like?
988. This is the new 911 for mental health. You can call, text 24/7. 24/7. If you're with somebody and you don't quite know how to handle it, they're talking about suicidal ideation. They're talking about not wanting to be here, not wanting to be a burden. They or you can call or text 988 in real time and get support. You don't have to walk through this alone. If you're in that place, please know you matter. You're loved, you're cherished, and Shane wants to tell us a different story. And 988 has helped their professional clinicians on the other side that are waiting for you to reach out if you need to. So 988, please put that in your phone. Know that it's available 24/7.
Yes. Well, thank you, Kristen Boyce. Thank you, Brian and Dana. You are appreciated. We'll see everybody back here next month for another edition of Mental Health Monday.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks, guys.
guys.
See you. Bye-bye.
You guys